probably 9, 10 platforms in the world. That's what DPI breaks. And I think the lessons can keep going on technology, interoperability, protocols, but I think at a high level, the credibility and trust factors, building organization and institutions around it, leadership vision executed with a bottom-up, human-centric approach, and taking two large, no pilots, large-scale implementations. Of course, in India, large-scale means size of a country, mostly, but some other country. But that has been the core success formula for us. And lastly, I think the amount of headwinds you face, one has to learn to navigate them. The headwinds in any DPI implementation, whether it comes to the AI world, and now the last world that we are seeing, part of the India stack, for example, is a layer called DEPA. It's called Data Empowerment and Protection Architecture, which is going to be used heavily in the AI layer that we are building, the AI stack we are building, because that's personal data. How do you share it? How do you use it to your empowerment but not give it away? The point that you made. And that is, that again requires both legislative backing, regulation backing.
You think about the values that undergird democratic societies. We care about openness, we care about accountability, we care about transparency, we care about opportunity. The technology that we have seen emerge from platforms is largely centralized, it's surveillance-based, it's increasingly autocratic in the way that it operates. And so there's a gap that we need to solve for there. And unfortunately, if you look at some of what is happening with artificial intelligence, we're just on track at the moment to speed run the mistakes that were made in the last iteration of technology. And so we believe there's an opportunity to do things differently, to build out an alternative. Socially and politically, we're going to need countries and jurisdictions around the world that care about these values to put forward a different vision for a tech stack that is aligned with our values stack. And we think that's entirely doable. We think we can build technology that is better optimized for the decentralization of trust that was referenced a few minutes ago. The second component of this is the technology itself. And there are a few specific pieces of this when it comes to AI. Has anyone followed what has happened with Moltbook and the Claude bots over the last little while? It's been pretty wild for those of you who've seen this play out. You now have AI agents that are creating their own social networks and talking to each other. We are going to have a proliferation of AI agents. And there's a big problem at the moment, which is that in any other domain, whether it's sports, whether it's real estate, whether it's entertainment, if you hire an agent, that agent works for you. But in AI, if you hire an agent, that agent probably works for Sam Altman, or it works for Elon Musk, or it works for somebody else, but it doesn't work for you. We're going to need agents that work for us, that help us manage our information and our data in a way that is consistent with our wishes, and also provide clarity around who different actors on that agentic web are representing. So that's going to be one piece of this. We will need to build out sovereign agents that are accountable to us as individuals. The second piece of this, more broadly, is we will need to ensure that there is data portability and interoperability, as Arvind was talking about a moment ago. We have seen a huge issue, again, with the last generation of platform technology, where once those platforms capture you and your data and your network effects, it's almost impossible for you to go anywhere else. And at that point, you are no longer a customer for these platforms, you're a product. And that's a lousy situation. We don't want to be in a position where we are the products of AI companies, certainly, because all of the issues that we've witnessed with the last iteration of the internet will be magnified by orders of magnitude going forward. So we need to design systems where we control our own information and we can move that information around to whatever model or whatever agent solution is going to meet our needs best. This is going to require technical code. It's also going to require legal code. And we are championing legislation in jurisdictions around the world that is designed to give people control over their data. Lastly, we are going to need economic models that make all of this possible. Some of that will have to do with the procurement structures that Mongol was talking about earlier. Governments need to put in place good standards for how they're going to purchase AI. And some of it is going to do with how we as individuals choose to expend our dollars to purchase AI systems. If we do these things, not going to be easy, but we think there is an opportunity to build a technology stack that is better aligned with our values.
And before I announced it at the beginning, so we'll have to do a Q&A. I'll keep my word. So we'll take 2 questions from the audience. But before we do this, I wanted to go back again to all speakers to get your thoughts. That will be for after. So keep it, and I'll get back to you. I wanted to go back to all speakers, including Vidisha, and ask a question that citizens have a lot in mind is all of this is really accelerating. All of the harms are accelerating. The development of AI is also accelerating. Some believe AGI will be there in a matter of month, matter of year. Anyway, the threat is palpable and is there. And yet, a lot of what we're discussing is actually not so new. A lot of it is about data that have been here since the origin of the internet, and we've been basically with our activity on the internet for the past decades have been feeding also those AI models. So what would be a good framework and good model that could keep lasting regardless of the innovation that comes out, regardless of the next model of AI? How can we build truly resilient systems so that citizens also don't feel that government are lagging behind, that technology are the front of technology, and that they are truly helpless? I'm going to head over to you, Arvind, with this tough question, and then we'll hear from Robert, Tomaika, Vidisha, and Mongol.
I think, first of all, before I answer your question, I must say that if there is I know there are many great advocates of DPI, but what Tomaya just summarized for us, I just said not 1, but 100 votes to him. If he can just replicate that vision is what we have been saying, but now it's nice to hear others saying that. So, and the reason I say that is I was part of the earliest internet that you can imagine, and we did everything wrong ever since. The world values of Web 1.0, 2.0, and it's all destroyed, right? So I think there is a chance. These AI Impact Summits happen once in 12 months, and that's too long, because that's now 2 more cycles. So by the time we meet next time, everything would have changed completely. So to your point, the resilience angle has only 2 aspects to it. Overall, it's a credibility and trust, but that has 2 components to it. One is who owns the data? How do you, because at the end, this is the data war. Whether now today that becomes the platforms were sucking it up for advertising or surveillance or data capitalism, or now it's the AI which is taking your content, your personal data to make agents for you which are sucking it up every day. So number 1 is how do we create techno-legal frameworks for data, personal data to be protected with technology, and make it, as I said, the DAPA APIs, and make it interoperable, because boundaries won't exist and don't exist any longer. So that's number 1. And number 2 is how do we have international safety standards and non-weaponization, both in commercial and non-commercial usage of agreements. I think we have to have this now in place where more and more people have to sign up to that. And this is going to be very key, because those are the 2-3 frameworks that we can do which will last technology.
Yeah. Just to maybe pick up on that last point from Arvind, of course, the United Nations has a process ongoing around AI and the development of AI and the governance of AI, which is subject to the speed of the multilateral system and the divisions that are inherent in the multilateral system. So it's challenging, but there is progress, and there is a annual policy dialogue that is implemented. There's an international scientific panel that's just been formed. And so there is a kind of at the intergovernmental level, there's a global discussion happening on that. But the speed is a huge challenge. But my answer to your question, Sarah, would be the ability to create sustainable models will depend on the agility of institutions. And the agility of institutions depends on the capacity of the people in them. And the ability of civil servants or others to be able to really quickly be able to adapt to the new realities, but keep the kinds of core governance positions and the values at the center of that. So there will be, quantum and all of the rest of the, bioengineering and everything else is going to just accelerate more and more and more. But if you don't have that agile institutional capacity, it is just not going to be possible for national governments to keep up and adapt quickly. So I think that's what I would say, in addition to, as Arvind said, it all comes down again to credibility and trust, which means part of that agility that you want to build into your institutions is being able to ensure that you've got voices from different constituencies and stakeholders across society to keep it focused on the values that you have as a nation.
And I just pick up where Robert left off. If you think about, again, going back to where we started, who should be driving the process of evolution of this technology? Right now, we are on a trajectory that is going to benefit a very, very tiny handful of people who sit on top of the frontier model companies. Even when you talk to those people, and occasionally I have the opportunity to do that, they are very uneasy about what that looks like for the most part. Generally speaking, these are not evil people, but they are being driven by really bad incentives. And we need to own up to that and do what we can to change those incentives. Instead, we need to focus on building systems that are going to work for the communities that they are intended to serve. And if we can make that our guiding star, the institutions will need to adapt, as Robert said. We will absolutely, as Arvind said a moment ago, need to ensure that people have control over their data, because that is going to be a through line. Here, 5 years ago, we would have been talking about DPI. Today, we're here on AI. In 5 years, we'll be talking about quantum. Data is going to be the through line through all of those. So control of data is going to be foundational and fundamental to that. But ultimately, we need to build systems that are designed and build movements that are going to ensure that there is good governance of these technologies by the communities that they are intended to serve. There's a small window of opportunity left to do that with AI. I hope we will take advantage of that opportunity.
We'll hear from Vidisha and from Mugol, but reminder that I'll get back to you right after. We'll take 2 to 3 questions maximum, and I'll need you to be sharp in your question so that we can hear from all of you. Vidisha.
Oh, well, thank you, Sarah. And I mean, I will just echo what has been said already, but my organization, we were involved a lot in the EU AI Act, and given how long it took for that act to actually come into being, and then it was immediately outdated even before it came into being. So the point on agility, I mean, absolutely, we need a basic minimum standard, broad global resilient framework that centers some values that are non-negotiables, and those have been beautifully captured by Tomaika already. It is important to center public interest. It is important not to incentivize this profit maximization mentality as we're racing towards AI development. So yes, that resilient broad framework needs to be in place, and that is non-negotiable. But at the same time, we have to recognize the fact that a lot of these processes take a long time. So there needs to be some sort of a mechanism that is agile enough to react to these developments as they're taking place. There's also the uncomfortable truths that's often repeated, and it's not not necessarily true that, oh, the people making policies don't really understand technology and technologists don't really understand legalities and policies. So we recognize that there's a bit of a silo, and it's important to bridge that silo, maybe in small steps. And then finally, there's a lot of global fora at this moment. There's a lot of good work being done by the G7, by the G20. Of course, the UN modalities resolution is a huge step because that remains, the UN remains the place where the smallest countries have representation and a vote and a voice. So these are all good steps in the right direction, but there needs to be more interoperability even within these global fora and standards. So I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. I think the panelist has done a great job on elaborating what does it mean. I would just want to double click on what Rob mentioned earlier. I strongly plus 100 to that. AI assurance is institutional assurance. So we will need agile institution to be able to cope with the rise of AIs and whatnot. A couple of points that I would like to add is that empowering the user. We have to put the user up and center. And that means we need to educate the user as well so that they understand what does it mean, what does trust mean to them, what are their rights to use this technology and not use this technology, what can they do to empower their agency to decide and adapt to this new technology. The second point is on we should leverage researchers and scientists. That's also congratulations to the UNs on the panel of the 40 distinguished experts on scientific, independent scientific panel on AI. I think each country should look at their researcher and their scientists to leverage what they can do to help in terms of creating new benchmark, adapting technology, creating trust in their own local context. The third one is the civil society. Civil society also play a huge role. They are the angel of the society, but at the same time, right now, as we know that the funding is really constrained, they are also themselves will need to catch up with this new technology because many of them are coming from, ourselves also coming from human rights background, and we need to catch up with these new technology. We need to understand what is technical alignment, what is reward hacking, what is multi-agent coordinations and whatnot. So we need to catch up with this technology, and there are really slim funding for civil society. So we are saying that there's less than 1% of the funding on safety research and civil society, and the 99% is on just accelerating this technology. Yeah, I'll conclude.
So it is about cross-sector collaboration, it is about interoperability, agility of government, and more AI Impact Summit as well, if I recall correctly, if somebody is taking notes about that. All right, time for questions. Okay, so we'll go through 1, 2, 3, and 4. Please make your questions super fast. We have 5 minutes sharp. And I'll probably give you my mic, and they have a mic. Okay. Do you have a mic? You don't have a mic, okay.
We'll take some mics from here.
Yes. Oh, thanks for the great talk. So, one question I had was there's a lot of assumption that AI would be a complementary technology in the sense it will always empower humans, but with AGI and the rate at which it's improving, there can be a case made that the rate at which it's improving is higher than the rate at which people can upgrade and upskill, and also the bar to upskill is also getting high. Only the access to upskilling is restricted to a small set of people. So how would just giving access to AI is one thing, but also being able to leverage and use it for their their own empowerment is much harder. So how would governments plan to give broad access to this technology?
Thank you. We'll take all questions all at once. So there was one next to you, one behind as well, and then one over here.
Yeah, myself Janak Makana. I'm a doctorate research in Gen AI. I'm studying that. Like so, we know that like so there are the big gaps between the two AI tools and the real adoptions of those. So I think for empowerment, trust, and awareness, like why we are not thinking about AI with people instead of AI for people. Well, like so people contribute to the AI initiatives, and again I think it will generate the some income for those individuals as well. So that's the idea.
Thank you very much. There was behind, yeah.
Hi, Pradeep this side. We are working on IPR, intellectual property right, in Gen AI also. So there should be like any infrastructure. When we are saying like infrastructure, as in like there should be a norms like that should be a must be legal framework. Basic understanding. These days, multiple startups are like taking data, and there is no norms for that. So basic minimum infrastructure from government side as an international level that should be complied with. That is my question. Is there already governance in US is going on, as you guys have already told? So like, is there basic norms can be like white paper can be released first?
Thank you very much. We'll take your question because I didn't see your hand, so I'm sorry about that. We'll take your question, and then we'll get a mix of response because your questions are all good and very complimentary as well.
Thank you so much. I'm with Consumers International. We're the global membership body for consumer groups around the world. And in hearing the comments around the importance of frameworks, global frameworks, as well as importance of local contexts, was wondering if you could speak to the role of consumer advocates and what they can do to help bridge that gap.
Thank you very much. And there was one here? Yeah. Okay, and I'll give you my mic and you can give me back my mic.
Thank you for the session. In this work, you said that the states are predominantly, they are moving towards building sovereign first models. If they are the foundational models, then the interoperability is one is going to be a big bottleneck, and then these things are going to create a silos again, especially when we take about building the trust of the citizens to use these models or sharing the data. Do you think that we need to be building solutions which are predominantly be taking those quantum of communications, building the data layer solutions where these intermediary layers would cross across, can be shareable, can be usable across all these models, even though if the models by themselves are standalone models, sovereign first models?
Okay, so we have question on sovereign, question on infrastructure, question on consumer, questions on AI for people. So who wants to take what in really a sentence per speaker? Who would like to start? Arvin?
Yeah, quickly take two if you don't mind. One is on the sovereign first or data localization is going to become a regulation, and it is verticalized and it's going to be a regulation everywhere. As and when the sovereign first models or SLMs, they get developed, data will remain something that both politically as well as socially governments will be obliged to protect, localize. So a kind of that what I talked about, a data empowerment architecture, which is consent-based sharing, time-bound, and for a particular purpose will really become very, very important in going forward. On the consumer advocates, I think consumer advocates, in my experience, are the real check and balance for safety and trust, especially. So they can't be left out. It starts off as a little bit of for especially I can wear my previous hat as a policymaker. It's a prickly discussion to have consumer advocates, but eventually you do come to realize that it is something that that really is part of the feedback loop to improve and give us the check and balance. So thank you.
And I'll say just a quick word on norms and some of what was referenced earlier. we are seeing this start to roll out. So in the US state of Virginia last week, we had legislation that mandates data interoperability and portability for the context of your communications with AI models. It passed unanimously in the Virginia State Senate. And we're seeing similar legislation roll out in many other places. Ultimately, it's going to take a movement to make that happen. We will need a lot of consumer advocates in that movement. Project Liberty has about 200 organizations that participate in our alliance, which is our movement arm to make that happen. If any of you are interested in being part of that movement, please come talk to us. We would love to have you be part of this broader community that's working to build a pro-human future for AI.
Robert and Mungal, very quickly, because there's a red sign saying time is up.
Super quickly, just on the access to upskilling issue, I mean, we tend to see this in terms of ecosystems. So it's not just access to upskilling or capacity building, but also access to compute that's affordable, access to data that's reliable, accurate, etc. But I will say the requests that we get from our country partners around the world, really capacity is at the top of the list. And it is absolutely necessary to make all of what we've talked about here today a possibility, to make agile institutions, to have a flourishing innovation ecosystem, and so on and so forth. We are seeing some ramping up of this. Some of it's coming from private sector companies who are looking for workforce. Others are being rolled out by government. But ultimately, we definitely and completely agree with the person who asked the question that this has to be a priority for countries around the world.
Want to add quickly on the role of consumer international advocacy. I think it's really important to Tomaika, what Tomaika is saying, that we don't want to be the products of this advanced system and model. And one thing that the consumer international can do well is the working on the redress mechanism, because there will be incident. How do we help consumer when there is an incident? So the redress mechanism will be becoming very important in the coming future.
Thank you very much. This was a very loaded discussion. We ran over time, but very fundamental discussion. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining, and please join me in applauding our magnificent panel. Thank you.